a moment, but Essential Ed is our sponsor today. So we have a representative here to say a few things. And so I'm going to let her speak before I start.
Hello, good morning, everyone. What a wonderful group. I just want to tell you, I just love speaking to educators. I was in adult education and career tech education for over 20 years, and I'm really thankful to be here today. We are here, I just want you to know, we are here to help adult educators. It's our pleasure to do that. We have several different areas where we help adult educators in adult basic education, ABE, and also college essentials, college preparation, workforce preparation, and of course, the one that we really, really want to emphasize as well is high school equivalency. So with the GED Academy and High Set Academy. So raise your hand at anyone here who has any of our products at all. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. We are so happy to be here today. So the reason that I'm here is that one of the other ways that we are helping is not only by providing those courses, but we also provide free resources to you, free to you. So if you come by our booth, we have three different types of books. And one is 3D Differentiation Guide, How to Plan and Create Engaging Instruction for All Adult Learners. That is something that we can all be very benefiting from. The 6 anchors of student retention. That is a huge plus. There are different ways that we can aid our student retention, then also overcoming adult learning challenges. This was our newest book, and all of these came from our professional learning communities, and they were developed by educators and our coordinators as well. So this is not just us, but all of you contributing to best practices and all of that. So I have these tickets that I've been passing out to those who have already come in, and I'm going to go ahead and please just raise your hand. So for these tickets, these books are valued at $49.95. So if you come to our booth, we have the ticket. Please come to the booth, and we would love to meet you. So thank you so much. And this is Ms. Krista Van Beerden. She's wonderful. This is a great, great topic to be speaking on today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, welcome again. I'm Krista Van Beerden. I'm from Navarro College in Corsicana, Texas, and so we'll get it out of the way. We are Cheer on Netflix. That's what we're known for. There's way more to us than that, of course. Our college is really good at taking the underdogs and helping them get where they need to be. It just so happens we're called the Bulldogs, but we work really hard on working with students that just don't fit the mold and have been told they can't, because we're there to say, yes, you can. So adult education is a great fit. And we've had the grant since, I believe, 1986. So we've been in adult education for a very long time. I started as the director in August of 2024, and I came in to help turn the program around because we almost lost our grant for the first time in our history. And that was a pretty scary thing for the college. So with a great team, we rehired some people and did a lot of work, and with a great team, we've actually turned it around. And last year, we met our targets for the first time in history that we can find. So we met them all. Very proud of us. So you'll notice I shake a little bit. It's not nerves. It's just something that happens to my family in high school. Boys, girls, all alike. We're just like, hey, how are you? So I don't feel it. So you guys are probably looking at me going, oh my gosh, you're so scared. I'm not. I get nervous beforehand because I'm excited, but I just naturally shake. So I prefer the clip-on microphones because this one I'm like, okay, so today, and just if it makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but you should see first graders. When I was teaching first grade, they're like, are you going to die? I'm like, no, I'm good. Are you mad? No. So that was a lot of fun. But I was in K-12 education for 23 years. And then I was a GED instructor part of that time. And I actually went in to quit because I didn't like the situation. And by the end of my, hey, I'm not going to be with the program anymore, it was, so how do I apply to be the director? And here I am. Because I'm a big believer in, if you're going to complain about something, what should you do? You should have a solution. Yeah, you should go in, and I just happened to be the solution this time. So it worked out, and we've done very well. One big thing we did was the accelerated GED program, and we just started that this year. We haven't even had it a year. And we have made leaps and bounds with this thing. But before we get into that, I know you guys are here from all over the country and outside of the country. Oh, it doesn't want to click. Hold on just a second. Oh, what are you telling me to do? It says don't show this again at the top. Oh, great. Okay, let's see if it'll work now. Nope. Oh, well, I'll just do it by hand. So sorry for the people at home because you're probably going to see my face in the screen a lot. All right, so for you OG Atari players, here's some pole position. How many of you played that as a kid or, yeah, me too. I loved it. It was the best. So there's two polls in Whova. If you guys can get into Whova and answer those two polls for me, please. One is about where you're from, where your program's from. You can just put the state or the country. And the other is the accelerated GED program. Oh, do you have an accelerated GED program? Yes or no? And I originally went in to look and see where you were all from, but not all of you have the location set. So I was like, we'll just do a poll. People are from all over the place. We have North Dakota, Florida, Arizona, Alabama, New Jersey, Texas, Idaho, Florida, Arkansas, Mississippi. Did I say Georgia already? Illinois, Washington, D.C., North Carolina. Wow, you guys are from everywhere. Right here in Indiana, Navarro College. That's going to be one of my people up here. Florida, Ohio, Oklahoma, North Carolina. That's awesome. I have actually lived and taught in Arizona, where I was born and raised, in Georgia, where I spent 13 years in Gwinnett County Public Schools. And then here in Texas, I have taught for about 8 years. And I spent a little bit of my high school years outside of a town called Portageville, Missouri. So I spent about 3 years in Missouri as well. So good. I'm glad you guys are here from all over the place. And then let's look at the other poll. Oh, sorry, I've got to hit the right button to get the results. Okay, so a couple of you have GED, accelerated GED programs, and a lot of you don't. So that's great. And of course, if you want to share some ideas that you have for something that your program is doing, that's great. Because not all of our programs look the same. They just don't. We don't all have the same resources. We don't all have the same number of people. Our program is not the biggest. We're right in the middle of Texas. But Kippy, she's here from Texas. Her program is the smallest one in Texas. So it looks a lot different as to what we do. And again, state to state rules are different. So we'll talk about this. Please ask questions throughout. I love when you ask questions as we go because they're more impactful in the moment because you might forget or it may not mean as much to you down the road when you're like, oh, now I'm thinking about something else. So just ask as we go. And that goes for online too. Caroline Southard, she's my program coordinator. She'll be watching the chat and responding and let me know if there's any comments or questions in the chat. And then Vanessa over there, Vanessa Blade is our career navigator and she is a emotional support person. So she's just hanging out too. And then when we travel, we usually travel with Kippy. She comes along. She's part of our Canna Coalition. So, all right, well, let's get started now that we've looked at our polls. So what is accelerated GED? Okay, hold on. I've got to get on this thing and find my cursor. Okay, there we go. So what is accelerated GED? Well, for us, we needed an accelerated pathway because we felt like we were wasting students' time. When I was a regular GED teacher in Ennis High School, right? I'm at night in Ennis High School. We had all these rules where you had to do this before you could do this, before you could do this, but then you have to do that. And if you don't do this at the right time, then you're not going to get that. And so it's like we're wasting people's time. And that's two things. I don't like my money or my time wasted. And yes, the program is free, but our time is expensive, so we had to look at it that way. And when I became the director, I was still teaching this class part-time. And the dean said to me, well, you have complete control over the GED readies. And I said, say less. And then we started this accelerated GED program. So I'll talk to you a little more about it. And I never know how big this screen is going to be. So I apologize. You are welcome to take pictures as we go. I will also upload it so that you can have it. I just didn't upload it ahead of time because I always make final minute touches to it at the end. You can be my clicker. Oh, you're the best. All right. So 2 nights a week is what we do our class for. You have to have a 5 or 6 NRS level, and it's mandatory, attendance. You have to be there. It's accelerated. If you don't show up, you're not moving. Right now, we do make exceptions, babies, sick, things happen. People have lives outside of GED. And then we do get 12 plus hour participants out of this accelerated class. They can do it in as little as 2 weeks. From, hey, nice to meet you, to great job. Here's your next step. So it's a lot. It's amazing to see these people just have life breathed into them. And then in the beginning, there's a very specific format, and I'm going to go over that with you. We do differentiated tutoring right in the class, and there's 2 parts to that, and I'm going to talk to you about that as well. And then if the students cannot attend the accelerated class time, we build it into a regular class, and I'll talk to you more about that as well. But you can see down here, I called it ACCHSE because that's the way it is in our Texas program where we keep all the data. It's how I built the class. So you'll see I go back and forth between the 2. And I'm going to tell you, it took me more time to get pictures that I could legally use than it did to make the whole PowerPoint. So you probably won't see some real high-end race car drivers in this because they're not free. All right, but it should all be Indy 500 unless I was lied to. All right, go ahead. Okay, so prior to class, just like we do with everybody else, they're going to enroll. Our enrollment system is done through the college. Our students are 100% Navarro College students. They just don't take college level classes. They're not taking post-secondary level classes. They get all the same perks. They get all the same privileges. They get the ID. They get everything. They can't stay in the dorms. That's one thing that's a no. We actually are a community college with dorms. And I know you don't see that a lot, but we are. That's one thing they cannot do, but they do get to work out in the gym, to go to the library, get the discounts for meals, all of it. So then we have test, paperwork, and it's kind of a pre-orientation, the first 3 hours. Everybody have those same rules where the first 3 hours have to be testing and orientation. Yeah. And then the actual orientation class, we have 2 orientation classes for GED. We have the Success Prep, which is a 2-night class that our regular GED students have to attend prior to starting their class. But we're accelerated, so we skip that orientation and we do the orientation writing class for the accelerated GED students. We do that on the first night. Then we separate them on that first night because we're going to have some accelerated GED students that are still in the class from the previous start date, but we have some new ones, and we want the ones that have been there to keep working where they're at, but we also need to do orientation for the new ones, so we split them that first night. All right, so expectations. Told you about attendance. They have to attend. There's no way to accelerate them if they're not showing up. And they have to communicate. We understand not everybody's been taught to communicate, but we've put things in place to teach them our expectations and to have them live up to those expectations. So they know attendance and communication. We use GroupMe right now. We used to do Remind, but now we're in GroupMe and we're looking for something else too. We know there's something better out there. So that's how we communicate with them mostly. And then email and phone calls, of course. And then the GED Ready test, we only allow them to take them in class. If they are an online student taking GED Ready, they have to take them during class time and they have to share their screen because I want the testing to be just like they're going to see on the GED, because if we have somebody using their phone on the sly and they get a 152, hey, that is awesome. And then you send them to the GED testing center and they get a 135 and you're going, what? This way we're controlling the testing area, the session, everything, just to make sure I don't allow any GED Ready test to be done outside of the classroom. And I'm such a stickler for it that one of the students sent in a picture asking me if this was a passing score. And I'm like, I didn't give this kid a GED Ready. What is he doing taking a GED Ready during class time? But he had bought his own. So I was like, okay, I better ask before I just jump in and assume that they're at home and taking it rather than where they're supposed to be. So the students sign up for their GED tests and classes. Well, we do not just give out vouchers. We sit with them, we sign up, we make them commit right then and there. Because if you don't, y'all, a month later, you're like, hey, how come you haven't taken the test? I gave you the voucher. So they have to sign up right there in class. And if they say, well, I can't sign up tonight, I need to talk to my boss, we say, okay, cool, we'll have the voucher for you next class. So that's very important. We're still able to accelerate them this way, but they have to believe and they have to buy in and they have to be able to make that commitment. I've written a letter for a boss before because I'll do that because we've all had those bosses ourselves. So I do. I write the letter if I need to let, hey, they need to take this test. And then the instructor keeps track of the student testing days. I'm actually one of the instructors. I teach the accelerated class in Corsicana. And we started out, and I'll tell you about the instructor aide, how we do it. We started out with an instructor and aide, but in my class, we had to go with a second instructor because I'm in and out so much doing different things that she's my backup. And we don't do subs or anything. She's out, I take care of it. I'm out, she takes care of it. And so we keep up with them and we call them or message them the night before, whatever they prefer. And we're like, hey, don't forget tomorrow, because we don't want them to not show up, right? And then on top of that, we will the same day, if they're testing later in the day, we'll be like, hey, don't forget, you have a 1:30 appointment today. We know you can do this. And we've built such a camaraderie in our class that other students will reach out to them on GroupMe, be like, hey, you're going to do a great job on this test today. I know you can do it. And they'll even come back and honestly say, man, I failed the test. I got a 144. And, we're like, oh my gosh, 144. Man, it's 1 point away. But they all encourage each other. And it's a wonderful atmosphere. And then the students will attend class until all of their GED or vouchers are used. So even if they're signed up for all 4 tests, they're not allowed to stop attending. And I'm going to talk more about the mandatory lessons that I do with them. So have to be in class. That's awesome. You're ready to do all your tests. You've passed all your GED readies. We've signed you up for the GED, and you're going to keep attending because we need your hours, because you need to count for us because we're spending money on you. All right, go ahead. Thank you. Okay, so again, this is small. Feel free to take a picture and zoom in on your phone. I apologize. So our students are identified from their baseline test scores. We use CASAS, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And they have to have a 5 or a 6 in math or in reading. They don't have to have it in both. They can come in with a 6 in reading and a 3 in math. That's fine, because we're going to accelerate them in what they're ready to accelerate in. And then if they need to be popped back to a regular class, we're going to do that because we're doing what is necessary for them. So I talked about an instructor and an aide. Even with the aide, they both need to be qualified to instruct. So they both need that bachelor's degree. And the reason why is because if the instructor is out, we're doing an accelerated class. Do you really think a sub's going to be able to come in and differentiate for everybody and know where everybody's at? We're going to go backwards with a sub. So that's why we need the aide to have a bachelor's degree and be able to teach. And in my case, we have 2 instructors. My aide became an instructor because that's what we needed. So I didn't have to go find somebody and my aide didn't get displaced. She just became a second instructor. And then it's 2 nights, 5:30 to 8:30. So 6 hours a week. That's how we're able to get the 12 plus hours. They already get their testing and pre-orientation and paperwork time prior to starting our class. So as long as they attend all 4 nights the first 2 weeks, then they get their 12 hours. And we're very structured. Like I said, first night, welcome. This is the purpose. This is why you're here. Expectations, and kind of get to know each other, because you have to have that just add water relationship. It's not always easy, but you've got to get to where you can reach these students as quickly as you can so that they can believe, because a lot of times you're the first person that said they could. So it's very important. And then if there's time, we'll give them their first GED ready. Then the second night, they take the first 2 GED readies or the next 2 GED readies. It really depends on how many new students I have coming in. If I have a bunch of new students coming in, I'm like, okay, everybody's taking this first and everybody's taking this second, just so it's easier for me to keep up with everything. If I don't have a lot of new students, because y'all, it ebbs and flows. We can go from 0 1 month and then 12 new students the next month. It really just depends who qualifies and when. So if I just have a few, I'm like, take what you feel most comfortable with first. And then that's the way I go about it. So the third night, they finish up their GED ready tests. And then on the fourth night, that's when I give out the vouchers and they sign up for the GED, if 21 plus, of course. If they're under 21, the Navarro College Scholarship Foundation pays for their vouchers. So that process is slightly longer because I have to go through all the scholarship steps. They write an essay, The instructor writes the essay. It gets sent to me as the director. I send it to the Navarro College Scholarship Foundation. They buy the vouchers, so it takes a few days to get through that process. But that's the main thing we do in the first 4 nights. Now, some of these students, after the first 4 nights, bam, they're ready to go. They do not need any instruction. We had one kid, our program specialist, Brittany, called him up and said, "Hey, you qualified for accelerated GED. Would you like to join the class?" And he said, "Yeah, that'd be great." Well, 2 or 3 days later, I was looking on GED.com and this kid pops up. And I'm like, "Who is this guy?" And I was like, "Brittany, who is this?" Because he got his GED. Wasn't he with us? And she goes, "Oh, no, that's the guy I called." So she calls him one day. He signs up and takes all 4 GED tests the next day and passes them all. He just needed to be told he was good enough to do that. And he did it. And I was like, "Man, but we missed him." We didn't get to count him, but he got his GED, and that is what we're in it for. But I also want my 12 plus participant hours. And in the fifth night and beyond, we tutor in the subjects they need because everybody needs something different. It is rare you will see me teaching a whole group lesson. We differentiate. They're all over the place and we're running around. "How can I help you tonight?" Next one, "How can I help you tonight?" And we just work that way. We teach them to be self-starters. And with what we're doing with them in class, they're able to directly apply it at home. And we're seeing them be more successful in their personal study time as well. Okay, so test results. GED ready. If they receive a GED voucher for 145, they can have a GED voucher if they've scored 145 or higher. And they are signed up for MAC tutoring. And unfortunately, this is going away where we're at. It's the Math Assistance Call Center through TCall, which is a Texas group. But our college will actually tutor our GED students for free in any subject. So that's where we're pushing towards. We're pushing them out into the college. And then if they don't pass any subjects at all, we just put them back in a regular GED class because sometimes they come in on that baseline test and they just nail it. And they get a great score. And then you put them on an official test and they get that test anxiety and they kind of shut down and don't do as well. So we know, okay, you need to go a little slower. You need more time to build confidence than an accelerated class. So the test results, if they pass all 4, they just stay in the class. They're good. We move them on to be on the GED. I'll talk about that in just a moment. If they pass 3, they stay in the class for tutoring on their final subject. If they pass 2 or 1, we move them to a regular class. So when they pass 2 subjects, we kind of decide, is this somebody who can keep working hard and get those other 2 finished quickly? Great, we're going to keep them in there. But let's say it's someone who came in on a 6 for reading and a 2 or 3 for math. They're not going to be ready for that science and math fast enough. So we'll put them in a regular GED class. And we just explain to them, great job. We accelerated you in the subject you were ready for. And this situation, here's your score. This is our concern. And we think you would be better suited in a whole group taught class that differentiates after the lesson is taught. And then we move them over. It doesn't happen that often. Not saying that there are people that don't just, pass them all, but it really doesn't happen that often that we move our didn't pass two into a regular class. And then if they pass one subject, we move them into a regular class, kind of no matter what, because they have 3 that they're not ready for, and that's a math and a reading issue. So we put them back in a regular class. Do I have any questions so far? Man, that'll kill an instructor and an aide. Yes. Yes, it is. I just put the ACC in front of it for the name for me. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, I'll do it through Hoover. Yes. Yes. So like I said, I always make changes up to the very end. So I hate posting it. Yes. hmm hmm You don't have that. Where are you from? What do you guys do for testing and orientation? hmm Right. It does not. So we have a required 3 hours we have to put in before we can count the 12 plus. You're like, wait, who's doing what now? Because we're always, yes, we're always listening for the magic, aren't we? We always want to hear what another program is doing better than us that we can implement to save money, save time, or save space. So,
our first 3 hours of anything that they do, as long as they have the test, goes towards the orientation and then the 12 tests.
yes, so always. You're welcome. Thank you for clarifying that because you would have gone out going, how do they do that? All right. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some students may want higher than a 145 because of their college career goals.
Yes.
So it's not like this isn't how you enter all.
They can opt out. Oh yeah, they can totally opt out. I had one that just sorry, now I've got to pick the proper form of the verb. One that just chose to opt out. She took one test. It was a subject she was really strong in. And she said, I'd really like to go into a regular class now because this is not something that I feel confident learning on my own at home. So I need instruction on this topic. And sometimes it's a topic that I don't even cover because I only do what is needed. And she wasn't in my class. We have a second class now. She was in that class, but yeah, we're totally going to honor that. So we can do fast track through accelerated. We can do high level through accelerated, but we can also push it into the classroom. And I'll talk about how we do that. Oh no, don't apologize. Yes. Let me give you the microphone.
Do you find that there are many students who qualify for the accelerated program, or are the majority on the traditional route?
Again, it depends on the month and it depends who's testing. Because some months I think 1 month we had over 20 students enter accelerated. This month we had 2. So it just depends who's coming and what their experience is. We're getting a lot more homeschooled students. I don't know if you guys are seeing that as well. So we're getting a lot more homeschool students. I have a student I'll talk about a little bit later that last attended in 3rd grade. Yeah, we'll talk about him though. He's awesome. I love him. Okay, so mandatory lessons. These are lessons that these students have to have. They have to be aware of how to use this calculator. Because they can practice on a handheld, but when they're taking their GED, they have to know how to manipulate it on the computer. And then we also use Aztec Learning, and they have a great section in there to help them learn how to use the calculator. My students love it. We just switched to Aztec in January. We actually did without distance learning for a little bit because, well, I know we weren't the only ones that didn't get our money, but that was a choice, we had to make because we were on skin and teeth budget. What do you call it? Skin of our teeth budget. And then we tell students, okay, you can purchase your own calculator or you can borrow one of ours. And then we tell them every time you're working on math, you need that calculator in front of you. You need to be writing things down. You need to practice doing that, without a calculator. Because there's a few questions on there they can't use a calculator. So we practice both ways. And then the calculator sheet, y'all, that calculator sheet's a godsend. It has pictures of what buttons to push. That's amazing. But you can't expect them to just show up and know how to use it. So you have to make them aware of it, let them know it'll be on there, and then walk them through how to use it. So that's definitely something we do as well. And then the formula sheet. You guys, you would think you were handing a complete foreign language to most of these students because they don't have the math foundation that they need to have. They just don't. We've spent too much time in K-12 pushing students through and not making sure that our K-12 educators have the foundation that they need in order to build the foundation that our students need. And then we'll throw in COVID just because, and all those things, right? So they're coming in without the foundation they need. This formula sheet, I do a whole lesson and I do it on every part of the sheet. And I'd use every letter. Okay, S equals side, L equals length. And we take notes on the whole thing. We do an example problem. And by the time they're done, it looks like crib notes. It's all over the front, all over the back. And I require that they have this out every single time they do math. Every time, because muscle memory. They're going to remember. Your brain's a big fat muscle. It's going to remember where that was placed on that paper, or you're going to do it so many times that muscle memory kicks in and you don't even need the little cheat notes anymore. So that's what I have them practicing with, but I tell them, I warn them, you will not be able to take this in with you. You're just going to have a blank one that shows up on the screen. So you need to know where to find these formulas, what the formulas mean, how to use them. Okay, because a lot of them are like SAV, what? And you're like, okay, surface area and volume, let's talk about that. And then math skills. Wow, I don't know if you guys are seeing this like we are, but we're having more students not do well on the math than we were previously. So that tells me that the math test is getting a little more rigorous. So I've done a lot of research. Okay, why aren't students passing math now? What can we do? Where is this? What can I work on with them? How can I support them? And I'm finding variables, of course. That's always, they see a letter, they freak out. Slope in all forms, y'all, not just finding slope, but the slope formulas and using a coordinate plane and how to find it just with points or how to find it looking at 2 points graphed on a coordinate plane. You have to do all of that. You have to do it front to back. And they have to know how to operate all of those problems. And then data. A lot of these guys, they look at a graph and they're like, so what's this? But also mean, median, mode, and range. So those are the big things that I'm making sure I teach. Now, of course, my fast track, you come in, you're going to score a 172 on the GED ready. You probably don't need me for this. You're probably just ready to go and take the test. And we've had a few like that where I didn't even get to sit down and do a math lesson with them. And, they come back and they got an even higher score on the GED. So just if they're ready, right? Okay, Vanessa. Writing. Okay, we know that our students hate to write mostly. Math and writing are the two that kill them. So we talk about GED expectations. We get out the rubrics. We pull up GED.com. We show them what we see on our side and how to get to some of the things that we see without logging in. And then we show them how to log in on their side and all the different things that they can do. Because guys, they're taking the GED. Now we don't have HiSET. You've noticed I haven't mentioned HiSET yet. Texas doesn't recognize HiSET anymore. So if they're taking the GED and they're signing up through GED.com, what better resource do you have than using the practice test and the different things they have to offer off of GED.com? So I show them both ways. I show them how to get to my materials and I show them how to get to their things. And then we also talk about the rubrics. What does that mean? They're like, 6 points. I can score 6 points. I'm like, not 6 points like you think, guys. So we talk about that. We talk about the rubrics. We talk about that it's computer graded. And I actually use AI to grade my students' practice essays, because if a computer's grading it, why shouldn't a computer be grading their practice? Because in Copilot, you want to ask first? Okay, cool. In Copilot, I just tell it using GED or the 3 rubrics for GED extended response, tell the student what they did well, what they need to work on, and how many points they would have scored. And then after that, I just paste their essay in. And it gives me the information. But it is AI, y'all. You got to go back and read it. You need to go back and make sure it makes sense. You need to read their essay. You need to read the response. If it's fine, I copy and paste it and send it back in an email to my students so that they have it at their fingertips at all times. Yes, ma'am.
Give them a 2 out of 6 or a 3 out of 6, and then they'll do in the thing, and so many get 0. So that was kind of what I was.
Yes, I've had. Right now, it's Copilot for me, but that's Microsoft. Our school's a Microsoft school, so that's what I started using. But also, y'all, just a little AI on the side. Use a separate account for your business and for your personal, because you could be looking at some very benign personal things that could get flagged through your business as being something that you need to get fired for. So keep business and personal separate on your AI. Plus, if you have a business, you can teach it all about what you're doing business-wise. And if you have personal, same thing. If you cross them, then you start getting some weird responses sometimes. Yes, ma'am. I tell it to use the 3 trait GED rubrics for the extended response. And then I tell it to, and I do this in a different order every time. Tell them what they did well. Tell them what they need to work on. And tell them what their score would have been. You're welcome. And I just go back and copy paste as much as I can with that because I type it different every time. So. A 0 to a 6. Mostly I'm seeing twos and threes, but it lines up with the GED rubrics. So, but I have had it give them a 0, and I'm like, yep, I would have given you a 0 too.
They're getting 0s and 1s.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people scoring, I have a student who scored a 172.
Mm-hmm. Yes. If you go in on GED.com, if you go in through the administrators and educators, you can get into the rubrics with examples. And if you look at the perfect 6-point scores, I'm sorry, but it'd be really hard for me to do that in 45 minutes. It is very rigorous. And coming out of K-12, I can tell you that a lot of the language and a lot of the expectations that they're having on the Pearson GED, you're seeing it align in K-12. We have third graders that now have to compare 2 texts on the STAR in Texas. Yes.
So things like the sample they give, like gives more like details sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to pull out of those articles without like hosting the Olympics.
Mhm.
Would be an author, recyclable bags one. And so sometimes their sample, it was, oh my God, amazing, but it doesn't feel like GD gives you the.
Right. So you have to teach them how to take that and use it, because you never know what they're going to get. Because if you go into the actual practice 10-question test that has it on the end, it's one piece with 2 sides on daylight savings time. It's not 2 separate written pieces. So they have to be able to identify the argument, the pro and the con within the same piece. And then in the writing, they have a little box about this big. Have you seen that on the practice? I don't know why it's like that, because that's not what they see on the actual test. So we have our students split their screen and pull up Notepad. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. Yes. Right, because of the instructions above it. Yes. So I have them split it because my students panic when the box is only that big. So I just have them split screen. Yeah. And y'all, she's from GED.com. She's not going to tell you a lie. I'm kidding. She's GED testing service. It's all GED.com to me. Yes. Yes, we do. We've sat at bars together before. Yes. That's correct. You have to go in on GED Ready and you have to grade that. So I just have them copy it, send it to me in an email, paste it into AI. You want a microphone?
Your voice, Donna?
But are people online?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize. I'm Jonna. I'm a state relation manager for GED based out of Texas. Chris and I got to know each other really well in February. But at any rate, thankfully there is AI. I'm going to use that as a suggestion for other folks when I work with them. I do a lot of professional development. But on our website, there are the scoring tool is available to you because the practice test does not grade automatically. It's a teacher graded thing. But as she mentioned, there's a rubric, there's exemplars, there's the scoring tool. We even have a recording on professional development, how to apply the scoring tool on our YouTube channel for professional development. If you go to YouTube and use GED testing service as in the search engine, our channel will come up and you can find the scoring tool, professional development for that as well. But I'm going to use your AI suggestion because I'm getting more and more comfortable with Copilot myself. So all right.
So please make sure you visit her, y'all. First, as you walk in on the left side, first booth.
Only because I realize you're hybrid. So the question was, the concern was that it's taking a lot longer to get scores, which was not the case. And we recognize that the team has been working on speeding that up. And the last team meeting I had, there's been some progress on that. So I would be interested in my peers. I don't work with South Carolina, but my peer who does, and I think it's Sean, would be more than happy to get that feedback from you. So that we can monitor the progress and improvement in score reporting on that. But the team is well aware of that and they're monitoring turnaround times and things like that. So, okay. I don't have any specific reason to share with you why that's happening, but it was noticed. Yes. we're hearing from other states and other programs. And so they've been working to take a look at speeding that up and, what's holding some scores up recently. So it's a very recent problem over the last couple of months, maybe, but it takes a lot of investigating what's going on between the systems and stuff like that. So it's not just you. You're not alone, I promise. But we have several of my colleagues here with us this week. So feel free to stop by the booth where, there's always going to be someone there. And we're happy to take your questions. I am presenting on GD Manager tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, shameless plug. And I'm also presenting with my colleague Liz Lamphere on a GD overview where we'll get into some of these content related things that, Krista's program has been remarkably successful. But we'll be able to share a lot more of that information as well on Wednesday morning if you have the time to come and join us. So sorry for that shameless plug, Krista. Thank you.
And see, when I first started this, I was frustrated with GED.com. I was frustrated with the testing, everything. And like I told you at the beginning, if you have a problem, you need to have a solution. So I dug in there and I just got to know it better. It took some time. And there's so many resources in there, you guys. I still find new ones here and there because they're adding them. So it's very important that you get to know the GED.com website. And I don't know if you've been to the accommodation page. They walk you through the accommodations, what you have to have the student provide, what the student has to upload, all of those things. So if you ever just put in GED.com accommodations, it'll pop up and tell you what accommodations are allowed. So just really get to know that website. That's super duper important. And I'll tell you what I tell my students when it takes 3 days to get test results back. I'm like, oh my gosh, you did such a good job that the computer couldn't tell if you scored higher or not. So they're having somebody grade it by hand. That's what I tell them. Could be the truth. But it makes them feel better because 3 days, y'all, that's a long time to wait. There you go. Yeah, but to this day and age, you tell them, you know what? I used to walk uphill both ways in the snow to school. And they're like, didn't you have a scooter? And 5 feet of snow, my bad. They're like, didn't you say you were from Phoenix? And I was like, yes. All right, I'm ready. But, oh, wait, did I miss something? I sure did. I do at least one 45-minute practice session with them so that they can feel the time. And I do the 15, 20, 10, just like GED.com suggests. I said, okay, guys, I'm going to give you 15 minutes. Let's see what you can do for reading and starting your planning, your writing. Then I give them 20. Okay, guys, you should be doing your writing this whole time. When I come back, you'll have 10 minutes to tie it up. GED.com says 15 minutes to read and plan, 20 minutes to write, 10 minutes to revise and edit. I say 15 minutes to get over your nerves, get it read, and hopefully get something started. 20 minutes to write, 10 minutes to panic write and tie it up. It's kind of what I'm seeing on the students. But they, with the practice, they like the feel. They like to feel that 45 minutes so they can understand what it looks like. Okay? Ready. Okay, so tutoring during class, I talked about this. There's 2 sets of students that are taught or tutored in our class. One are our accelerated GED students, but the other are any of our regular students that only have one subject left because they can go to their regular teacher on the night that the teacher teaches that subject, but then they come to us to get that tutoring and that differentiation. So they're getting 2 nights now of just the subject they need, not a reading social studies science night and a math social studies science night. So that's what we do. That's and it's any student in the program. And some of them, they love it. Others are like, no, I'm good. So again, we have to do it where they're ready to go. And sometimes it just takes that extra courage, pushing them to be brave. We put them in subject groups. Sometimes we put them in subject groups within subject groups within subject groups, just depending on what they're working on, especially with math, because there's just so many topics to work on. And then we move from group to group as needed. We get our steps in. We get our main steps in during these classes because we're literally moving. How can I help you? How can I help you? I may be teaching all 4 subjects and several things in each subject in one night. So, and then the instructors have a variety of materials. We have everything available. We've taught them how to use GED.com. We have books. We use Scoreboost, Kaplan, Steckvon. We use Khan. We use Aztec. They have all these different things to learn from. And then we're right there with them. Okay, so accelerated GED in a regular class. It does slow them down a little bit. That's why the caution flag's out. So it slows them down just a little bit. the students go to specific instructors. I have specific instructors and aides trained for this. And so they know how to do a brief orientation in class. They know how to give them the accelerated, treatment, and then have them start the GED ready tests. And then they move them forward on the GED. Where it does slow down is the instructor and aide provide as much differentiated instruction as they can, but they're running a whole class on top of this. So that's why it's very select. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Is this all in person? How far do your students travel to class?
So yes, good question. Is it all in person? Yes. Why? Because our accelerated GED was not successful online for our program. I've met other programs, they only do accelerated GED online. So it really depends on your program. And we had a student that quit attending the Waxahachie location to come back to my location because I started out as her instructor, and she was driving almost an hour one way just to come. And we have had people drive almost 2 hours to 3 hours, depending on where they live, from my location to come to that class. So if they have the ability to do it and want to do it, we're all for it. If they don't, we have alternatives. So. All right, so then let's say I've basically talked about it, orientation in class, GED ready in class, and then the differentiation. The GED ready, we put them in a conference room. Yeah, that's when we separate them. Yes. Yes. So we have I apologize for those of you online, I didn't repeat the question, but the computers, what we have are Surface Pros, like mine's like hers sitting over there. We have those for our students. They were purchased with funds. And so that's the way we do that. In one of our buildings, we have a lab that the students can go to. But in our building, the Bain Center, where we have our night classes, we just pull Surface Pros. And then a couple of our classes have a few desktops in there, but Navarro's been pulling a lot of technology because it's getting outdated, can't be updated. So we've had to be inventive. Yes. All right, so instructors and aides, in person only. The instructor leads the students through the first 4 days. The aide completes paperwork, monitors testing, and then the instructor is tutoring and teaching when possible, while working with them, while the new students test. And the aide helps with the tutoring when you're doing instructor and aide, but if you're doing two instructors, it's completely interchangeable. Good working relationship. Have to be proficient in multitasking. And then you have to have a welcoming, encouraging personality. You need to be a cheerleader, but you also need to hold them to expectations, because you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. It's the nature of people. So, and then you have to earn that student trust really quickly. Regardless of who you are, your gender, your color, your experience, you have to be able to meet everybody where they're at and connect with them in some way. I had one girl, dark makeup, like metal all over the place. I could not relate with her physical appearance, but I found an earring I really liked. And I said, oh my gosh, I really like your earring. And we were best buddies because I liked her earring. But I had to search. I was like, okay, well, I like that one. But you have to do that. You have to meet these students where they are, because they really are special students. You're getting a chance to breathe life into them. All right, learning space, again, in person. Classroom, where you can break out into groups, additional learning areas if possible. We teach our students to take breaks as needed, reasonable breaks as needed, right? And how to get in and out of the classroom when you're taking a break when nobody else is without disrupting everybody. And then the formula sheet and the calculator sheet while doing math. Aztec. Okay, I know Essential Ed sponsored us. I'm sorry, Essential Ed. But we use Aztec. We don't use Essential Ed. And we just started Aztec in January. Our students love it. They choose Aztec more over any other resource that we have available to them. Aztec is still growing and learning the needs of our students, but anytime I make a suggestion, they're on it. And it's really good. And personally, I like the way Aztec lines up with the GED Ready report or the GED report. It's easier to pull. And I've said, there's a lot of extra information that we don't need. And all of a sudden the other day I opened it up and I was like, oh my gosh, that's all gone. So they do listen, and I really appreciate that. But per the students, it's easier to use. They like the clear expectations. They like the in-person human videos. They love that because Aztec is paired with Kaplan to make these videos. And then they like the calculator part of the program where it teaches them how to use the calculator. Okay. All right, the students, they're encouraged to work together. They're encouraged to teach each other, celebrate each other's accomplishments, guys. It's all within what's appropriate, because you know your classrooms and your program. And then we respect the differences and the different journeys that people have taken to get there. I love when somebody says, but I'm on probation. I was like, but that means you got caught and I didn't. I mean, we've all done something illegal, and the look on their face is like, okay. But that's a quick buy-in. That's a quick buy-in line because it's true. We've all done something illegal. Some of us just get locked up for it. Yes.
What specific classes are you using from Aztec?
We're using the Kaplan, GED Kaplan from Aztec. I've been checking out the Flash. They gave me just a generic login, and I have one student at a time using their GED Flash. And they're like, can we have this too? So we're going to invest in the GED Flash part as well. So they do have some other, if y'all use CASAS, they have a great CASAS section. They have some lower end teaching for students that aren't ready for the GED level in a subject. So there's a lot to see. Go see them while you're here if you want to look into it. If you don't use them, I'm not saying use them. I'm just saying it's what's best for our students and our program. We all look different. Our programs all have different needs. But feel free to check them out. I'm not getting paid.
We did this conference back in February, and there were some that felt Essential Ed was better for them than Aztec. So it just depends on your program and what works best for your students.
And we did have Essential Ed before, but our students did not like it. However, Essential Ed has done a bunch of upgrades, and it's supposed to be so much better now. So we're going to look at that because we may end up having both. We don't know. So I'm not poo-pooing on anybody. I'm just saying Aztec is working best for us right now. All right. And then building a working relationship with both instructor and aide. They can't just favor me or favor Christy. They need to have a good relationship with both of us. And it's worked so far. I mean, Christy's a lot more intense than I am. I'm a little more laid back, not a lot, but a little bit. And so they'll lean towards one or the other, but they're not afraid to talk to either of us. And that's really important. Okay, so lesson plans. This is tricky, y'all, because everybody's doing something different every night. And sometimes what I think I'm going to do is not the same because somebody went and took a test and passed it, or somebody went and took a test and didn't pass it. So basically, I have a generic plan that talks about what I'm doing each night for the month. I have 8 lesson plans, and then I have a 9th one if it's a month that I need an extra one. And it steps out what we're doing in class. But then I have a table where I put the student's name, the subject they're working on, and the topic we worked on in that subject. That's how I update my lesson plans. I don't go rewrite them all because my lesson plans say differentiation with these subjects for students as needed, and then I put what differentiation I did. That's how I update it, because if you're going to keep rewriting lesson plans, you're going to die. You're going to die. How many love lesson plans? Yeah, exactly. So their needs really do change quickly. So you have to be ready to pivot. If you aren't already thinking of an instructor or an aide that would be good for this in your program, you may need to hire somebody specifically for this. They have to be able to build relationships. They have to be able to pivot, and they have to be willing to understand that sometimes things get redone like your lesson plans, but in a thoughtful manner that doesn't cause you to work all the time. All right. Yes.
I don't know if I need this or not really, but could you please share your lesson plan with us?
Maybe. I don't have it with me. Let me get something together and I'll drop it in the Whova because my lesson plans have the student names and stuff. So I've got to pull that out of there. So yes and no at the same time. But I can drop an example lesson plan that I do. And I'll drop, if you want, the first 4 nights so you can see what that looks like. But again, I need to clean up the PII. Okay, so opportunities. Here's your slippery flag or whatever else that means. I know it means something else too. I just don't remember. So testing centers. We're having a little bit of an issue with our testing centers because we have so many people testing now that they can't keep up with us. So we have 2 Navarro College Pearson approved testing centers. We have a technical issue in Corsicana, so we only have 2 computers they can test on. That gets a little tight. And then we have 6 computers in Waxahachie. And then, of course, if they choose to go to other Pearson approved testing sites, they can do that as well. So we've had to work really hard with our testing center to be like, hey, can you help us out? Because it's accelerated and they can't accelerate if they can't test. So we worked with them. They've been very willing to work with us. Sometimes there's brick walls, but they climb them with us, help us knock them down. So that's, they've been very overwhelmed. They're like, you have even more testers? And we're like, yes, that's the purpose. That's what we want. So they've worked with us well, and we appreciate that. And then GED.com, we have had some issues with GED.com. There's been some really messed up accounts. And a lot of times that's the student's fault. You know, where they've created 2 or 3 of the same account, but they change all their information so it looks like it's a different person. But then when you go to do this, you can't do anything because they may have test results in one account. The next account might have their correct address. And the third account, you're like, did you just make that up? So I sit with my students and call in and we get that fixed. Or I have them call in on there. Is that what you're going to say? Mhm.
Every now and then someone slips through. So if you are finding that, Krista does a great job. That's exactly what I was saying.
Yes.
Get it cleared up. So because what we can do is combine those duplicate accounts. So all the testing history is in one account.
Mhm.
And then you can see whether or not they've passed, because they might have them, so it's all combined.
Yes, and that's exactly right. Just call in and get it combined. Every once in a while, something doesn't track over into what they're combining, but most of the time it's a student issue. It's not GED.com's issue. GED.com does have issues sometimes. The other day, they had an issue where half of my students showed that they bought something, so I couldn't assign GED ready test to them. I was like, what in the world is this? These, my accelerated students are ready to test and they can't. So I had to get on there and get that straightened out. Well, the next day it was fixed. So it was just some glitch in an update, but we've all gone through that with our programs. You update something and something else doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And then reps, y'all, I've already talked to her about this, but I had a really rotten rep one day. And I was like, no, this is not how this needs to go. And that's why she and I got to know each other well in February. I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. But it was a really bad experience. My suggestion is to hang up and call back. It will save you a lot of time. A student and I totally trauma bonded over that experience. It was bad. All right, go ahead. Okay, so better opportunities. Make exceptions for students, guys. That's what this is about. That's what accelerated GED is about. That's what GED is about, is finding exceptions that we can make for our students when they don't fit the mold. And how can we work this out? Like writing a letter to their employer. They really are ready to test. They're really ready to go. And it's just so important that you are willing to work for these students and with these students, but never harder than the student. If you are working harder than your student, they don't belong in your program. And I tell them that to their face. Why am I working harder than you? Do you really want this? Because if I have to work harder than you, I'm going to drop you from the program because you're not doing your job. And most of the time they straighten up. We had one that left because he didn't like that I said that to him. But I didn't feel bad because it's the truth. And I tell them, I already have my degrees. I want you to get what you want. This is not about me. This is about you. And we're doing this free for you. So you've got to have some skin in the game. And it generally works. Fast tracking students, still get your 12 plus hours, guys. I don't let anybody walk in and get a GED voucher without giving me 12 hours. I know our states say, just give them those GED vouchers. I'm like, then quit telling me I have targets, because I need to make my targets, right? And if I'm giving away free GED voucher, where are my 12 plus hour targets coming from? So skin in the game. They have to pay me in their time and I will pay them in vouchers. It's a big thing for me. And then building student confidence. Again, that first call that I told you about, he just went and passed it the next day. No biggie. Yep. Now, Beyond the GED is a 2-night class that Vanessa and I built for after they get their GED credential. We do this once a month, the first week of the month. It's 2 nights. We help them fill out their FAFSA. We get them registered for Navarro College. Are they all going to attend Navarro College? No, because we don't have everything that everybody needs. But if we walk them through how to enroll for Navarro College, then they know what's expected no matter where they're going. Then they know that terminology. They know what it means. And what they don't realize is we've now created a backup plan for them. Because what if they can't get into where they're going and they just need to get some classes at Navarro College? They're enrolled. So we've created that backup plan. So if you're not at a college, partner with a college. If you're not partnered with a college already, please find a college to partner with, or even if it's, a training program, something where they know that you're going to enroll students that may not be attending, but they need the access, they need the practice. So that's very important to us. And then they complete the 16 personalities and the Texas reality check. So the 16 personalities helps them kind of tie how they work with others and their personality into jobs that would be good for them. And then the Texas reality check, oh my gosh, Vanessa's a hero when she does this. She's like, okay, how do you want to live? And okay, what about this one? Which do you prefer? Do you want a mansion? Do you want this? And she is just like, yeah, oh yeah, that'd be great. And then you get to the end and they're like, okay, I have to make $4 million a year. And she's like, yes, yes, you do. Or we can scale some things back. So, and then she'll also say to them, they'll be like, I want to do X, Y, Z. And you're looking at them going, you're not going to survive as an influencer, but okay. And she says, that is a great side gig. Let's talk about your career now. So she says no and yes, all in the same sentence, and let's get a backup plan. So it's very, very important that they're getting this experience. We also have the SBDC, which is a Small Business Development Center, come in and talk to them about starting their own business and what that would look like and how they can help them do that. And then we do some career and college exploration if needed. Sometimes they need it, sometimes they don't. Can you click the next slide. Do you have any questions or anything on there? Or comments? We good? Okay, so at this time, all of our accelerated students have made an MSG, all of them, because that 1D is my friend, subject on the GED. So they've all made an MSG. The 9-year average at Navarro College for GED credentials prior to this year was 37. Right now at 9 months, we have 50 credentials, and 37 of those are accelerated. It has made a huge difference for us. And then right now we have 28 accelerated GED students that have passed 2 or more. They've passed 2 or 3 tests. So we have 28 plus because we don't know who else is coming into the program in May and June. So we are really going far and doing great things with this program. And it just started because we didn't want to waste time. But it's not just that. It's not just that I didn't want to waste students' time. It's that Navarro College got on board. My instructors got on board. My office staff got on board. Everybody got on board because we wanted what was best for students. And any of our partners, when I reach out and talk about it, they're like, you're kidding me, 2 weeks? Like, no, I'm not kidding you. 2 weeks, if they're ready. Because people think we can do magic in 2 weeks, but if they're not ready, we can't. So it's very important. Yes.
We have a lot of low-income students. They do not have transportation. They work odd hours, et cetera. How do you accommodate those students in an accelerated program?
We have some students that are only able to attend one night. And so we just set them up for success, working around their work times and only attending one night a week. It does slow them down a little bit, but we're not going to take away their accelerated opportunity just because they have obligations and barriers outside of class. So we do have them attend 1 day a week. That's where the communication is vital, because if you don't show up, I'm going to come find you. I know where you live. And if you use somebody else's address, I know where they live. We're going to make sure you're okay. Do you need help? How can we help you? We have one guy that he's moving to a regular GED class because he is not making any progress because he had huge health issues, almost died. He doesn't need to come back accelerated. He needs to come back slow. So it's things like that, but he disappeared on us and we hunted him down. So with love, not with stalker vibes, with love. All right, so we switched to CASAS this year. We have more students testing to accelerated than ever before. TABE did not work as well for our program. May work great for y'all's. Didn't work for ours. So the last 3 months of program year 24-25, we only had 9 students qualify. The first 3 months of program year 25-26, we had 27 students qualify. TABE, CASAS. For our program, y'all. Okay, I'm not saying for yours. Go ahead. Thank you. And then I looked in our teams. That's what it is in Texas. We have TWC teams and Microsoft teams. So in teams at the beginning of the year, we had 7% in beginning literacy, 53 in beginning basic ed, 31% in intermediate low, and intermediate high. We had 9%. I may take that back. That was program year 24-25. So 60% were beginning, 40% were intermediate. Well, so far this year, look how it flipped. Using CASAS, we have 2 at beginning literacy, 14% beginning basic ed, intermediate low is 42, and intermediate high is 42. So we have 16% instead of 60 in beginning, and we have 84% in intermediate instead of 40%. CASAS works for our program better. All right, so how can your program get started? And if you notice, I'm talking faster because we're almost out of time. Identify instructors that fit this class. Okay, don't force fit any instructor into this class or aid. Make sure that before you start this class, they have prep time so they can learn GED.com and what's expected on testing. Give them time to prep lessons prior to the beginning of class because they have to come with an arsenal. They have to be able to switch from science to social studies to math to language, reading, writing, whatever part of it, almost on a dime. There are some times that I have to say, hold on just a second. I haven't done that kind of math in a minute. Let me look and make sure I'm still doing it correctly because you get a little rusty if you're not using it, but I'm honest with my students. And then identify students based on test scores, NRS 5 or 6. We're actually going to venture next month students who score 2 4s. We're going to see what that looks like in the accelerated class. We're going to put them in accelerated and look at the data because we may need to drop our accelerated to 4. Double 4s or a 5 or 6 because we don't want to discount anybody. Whoop. Oh, girl, you're just going. Vanessa says, we're done. Okay, we do not have time for planning. I'm going to upload a graphic organizer for you as well to kind of help you plan out your GED. You don't have to use it. It will not offend me. I'm not that person. All right, I won't hunt you down. With or without stalker vibes. Okay, so right now it is 12:57. So I'm going to start with you because I know you have a question, and I'll get any other questions, and I'm going to have Vanessa switch over to my contact info, but I also have business cards right here. Yes, sir.
Were you guys actually able to identify what was the biggest difference in the shift?
Yes.
Students were more engaged or resonated more?
Yes, that's it exactly right there. So he's asking, were we able to identify what was it between TABE and CASAS that makes our students do better? I asked them because I asked the students that took TABE at the end of the program year or, sometime in the previous program year and then had to retake CASAS. They said it was easier to understand what they wanted from them. The questions were clearer. It was easier to read. They said it felt like TABE looked older. We're CASAS, let me just pick an acronym. CASAS looked newer, fresher, and made them more comfortable. So they like it so much better. All right, anybody else? You're very welcome. Y'all want to go to lunch, don't you? It depends on the class. It really does. So one of our classes is up to 30 something because we have the space and the instructor and aide can handle that. We have some classes that have 5 because we just started that area. Yeah. Right. Well, I did 31 by myself. I was the only instructor with 31 accelerated GED students in my class. Thought I was going to die. It's too many for one person in accelerated. And I'm really good at what I do, but not that good. So. One instructor, but they have to split the subject by night. So they teach all 4 subjects. They just don't teach them all 4 in one night. Yes. Yes, very structured in the beginning and then differentiated after that. And then it's all 4 subjects. Anything goes all the time, every night. Yes. Anybody else? Okay, don't forget there's food trucks. I saw a food truck sign. So I think we're closer to them on the first floor, just so you know. Just go to the opposite side somewhere. But thank you guys very much, and I'll drop all of that in for you. Okay, have a good day. More question online? Go ahead. We run these accelerated classes year round, and the new students start at the beginning of the month. All right. Anybody else online with a question before we sign out? No. Okay. All right, guys. Have a really good day.